Every other year since 1998, the NDC has been conducting the SISTUS in an effort to monitor the trends in youth substance use throughout our islands. The survey is conducted among all students in years 7 through 13 across both public and private schools in the Cayman Islands. In the 2022 survey, we had a total of 19 schools and 3,608 students participate. With substance use disorders representing one of the top factors impacting the global burden of disease, the monitoring of youth substance use remains imperative for informing the development of policy and prevention programming that supports and delays the onset of substance use. The good news is that the 2022 SISTUS data showed that the majority of young people continue choosing not to use drugs. However, while students are aware of the risks surrounding drug use, their attitudes and beliefs of great risk from use are somewhat low, particularly for marijuana and e-cigarette use. Of students who have tried a substance, alcohol, e-cigarettes, and marijuana remain the top 3 most prevalently used drugs. The use of traditional cigarettes continues to decline. Consistent with international research, alcohol is the most prevalently used drug among young people in our islands. It is also one of the most common drugs that young people first try, with an average age of first use being 11 years old. 13% of students reported using alcohol in the past 30 days prior to the survey. We consider this time frame as current use. Of these students, almost half also reported binge drinking at least once 2 weeks prior to the survey. This means that these students consumed 5 or more alcoholic beverages in a single outing. With 1 in 3 students having used a vape at least once, e-cigarettes are the second most commonly used drug in this survey. More than 3 times as many students have first used an e-cigarette at the age of 13 years or younger when compared to traditional cigarettes. The rise in vape use must be closely monitored, as chemicals in the aerosols of these devices are harmful to the lungs. 14% of students have used marijuana in their lifetime, making marijuana the 3rd most prevalent substance used in this survey. The average age that students first used marijuana was 13 and a half years old. We recognize that attitudes towards marijuana have been changing, with a greater acceptance of its use, especially for medical purposes, being seen globally. In measuring the attitudes and beliefs towards drug use in the SISTUS, we found that students were least disapproving of others occasionally smoking marijuana when compared to other drug use. Most students reported that they see slight to no risk surrounding regular marijuana use. There were several concerning risks connected to students' drug use, such as getting into fights, problems with family or friends, and memory loss. Memory loss was the most reported use-related risk in this survey, as reported by 45% of students who used drugs in the past year. Just under half of all students reported having been bullied at some time, with significantly more girls reporting this when compared to boys. Bullying was found to be a significant predictor of the scores for total anxiety and depression among students in years 9 through 13. Mental health continues to be an important area to monitor among our young people. Through the use of the revised Children's Anxiety and Depression Scales, we found a significant difference in the total internalizing scores for anxiety and depression among girls when compared to boys. Girls reported higher levels of anxiety and depression on all subscales, such as social phobia, panic disorder, and major depressive disorder. However, in comparing the RCAD scores observed in 2020 to this 2022 survey, there was no difference observed in the total internalizing scores for anxiety and depression. This year, we introduced a new mental health screening tool called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Questionnaire, or the ACEs. This tool measures childhood trauma, which is thought to increase the likelihood of health issues later in life. We found that more than 1 in 5 students reported having experienced 4 or more ACEs. ACEs relating to household challenges was the most common in this survey, followed by those relating to abuse, and lastly, neglect. Girls were more likely to report having experienced a greater number of ACEs than boys, such as sexual abuse, emotional neglect, parental separation or divorce, and mental illness within their households. To conclude, while the majority of students continue to not use drugs, it is important that prevention efforts continue to support both students who are not using by reinforcing their positive choices, as well as supporting students who are using by encouraging their discontinuation of use. Thank you for listening.